Oh, it's been another beautiful week. It's been a bit of a different week this week because I've actually had more work. I've done 3 days, which probably sounds like a bit of a kick in the teeth to some of you that work 5 days, maybe 6. But again, this is the shift I chose, and I still had work because I've been tutoring. So really, I should be counting that as work. So I've been working 1 day a week anyway, and then I've been doing an extra day a week roughly in school. So, 3 days in a day, but like my Tuesday was back to back. It was a last minute help to get to work. Basically, someone else hadn't turned up to do cover work, and they were like, at 9:15, can you come in? Absolutely, I will be there, no problem. And I wasn't massively doing much with my day, but it meant then I was straight into tutoring and then straight into guides. So it was utter madness, and I think that has been the tone of the week, it compared to the very, very chilled and relaxed January. But in saying that, it means that I've been a little bit more distracted in terms of my thoughts. And it's an interesting balance of having extra time because you have more time to fill and you have more time to think about everything. So, and I think there's good and bad to this. It led me to reading a lot about retirement, which sounds ridiculous. I realise I haven't retired, but it's almost the same thing. It's that element of having so much time on your hands to fill. So having all this extra time has been good because you can take a slower pace, and my job at the time, it was busy. Teaching is busy. A lot of jobs are busy, but as I think I mentioned previously, you don't realise how busy teaching is unless you know a teacher and really see it. But slowing down has that pro, so I have a lot more time to do things, but you also have little motivation unless you create it to get up, to do anything, because whilst I realise I do need to earn money in order to pay my bills and live, no one's holding you accountable for showing up. And unless I have work booked, I could sit in bed all day. Me and my friend Katie were talking about this because she has lived a kind of freelance, flexible lifestyle for a while based on the job she does. And she says, yeah, she's had those thoughts as well. You're like, you could just go without for some time. And it's difficult to shift to that. I found that a challenge. I don't have a problem getting up sometimes, but it is easy to procrastinate and leave yourself with little to do and fill your time with rubbish. And that's what led me to reading so much about retirement, because I thought, what do people do when they retire? And it fascinates me. I'll probably do a full podcast episode on this probably once I've read more and explored it more. But this idea that retirement is really like an ideal, and that people still do enjoy their time more from the stats that I remember. But the reality is not all that it's matched up to be, because I was reading a blog article and a woman had said, this is someone that was retired in an older age, but she said like, well, she got up, she got the house sorted and tidy, and it was only 10 o'clock. She's like, what am I meant to do with the rest of my day? And whilst I can't imagine anyone's nearing retirement that listens to this podcast, but I just think it's a fascinating thing that I've done this shift of not wanting to work so much, and in January and rolling out of Christmas holidays, experienced this expanse of time to find that work is pretty crucial to our lives, unless you've got enough funds to do something different. So obviously there's an element of I'm not retired and getting a pension, so I have to work to earn money. But even then, some people's pensions cover the basics as opposed to being something that you can actually experience life on. And it's something to think about for the future, because I can imagine that, and you probably see it in your parents at the moment, there are some parents of ours working towards retirement that cannot wait to get to that point and be like, I'm free, I've done it, I've done my working life. And when you read the information on retirement, I'm so sorry this has turned to retire, but it's something to be aware of, because I'd never thought about it. And I thought when I quit, I knew it was going to take time to shift. I didn't really think it was going to be as slow as it was. And thank God I've had the gym and I've filled my time with friends. It's not like I'm sat at home doing nothing. The gym was introduced to make sure I went out every day, even if I didn't have an occasion to go to. And I built a schedule with my friends to say, can I please see you weekly? And then others kind of fit around the weekly people. But it is this idea that having time off is fascinating. And I wonder, I guess, some people experience this in lockdown when I didn't, but when they were furloughed and they maybe weren't needed to do their jobs and they had a lot of time to film. Whilst my brother was furloughed, for example, and I remember him not being overly comfortable at times with that, I couldn't fully comprehend it. Whereas now I feel like even just from the 4 to 6 weeks I've had in January of there not being much, I think I get it. I would have always been one of those people that said, yeah, if I won the lottery, I would still work. My goodness, is that absolutely true? There is not a hope unless that lottery enabled you to do things. But there is something about work to me, human contact and being part of something. My work is deeply important to me. And whilst you could question that and say, well, you left and you're not in there properly anymore, I still massively care about the pupils when I get in there. And I see my job as a cover teacher, as it is now, which could be seen as a lesser job. I see that as important because, do you remember cover lessons when you were at school? There were one or two. They were either really boring and useless, or they were fascinatingly entertaining, but still useless. Like, there wasn't a lot to them. And I still try to give the pupils the best experience of that as possible. So, come on, we're getting on. Being interested in what they're doing, if it's something I can access in some way. I see that as important. That's still meaningful to me. Oh, I put the book somewhere. It comes up in the book we're reading next, which is Lost Connections by Johann Hari. It's something I've read before, but I can't wait to read again. And he talks about these elements, the ways we become disconnected from life, which can lead to depression and anxiety, which is what this goes into. And then talks about the way to reconnect. And meaningful work is one of them. It gives you a sense of purpose. It gives you a sense of meaning. It gives you a reason to get up. I don't regret my choice at all in that sense. I needed to quit full time. I needed to see what this is. But I've probably realised in this week that having so little structure or consistency of work doesn't suit me. I do need a bit more, and not for money's sake, although needed, but that's not the motivator. The motivator is I need something meaningful to work on. And whilst this is meaningful, I am working on my own. So then there's a social element of being connected to others. And it's something that I think long term to think about. As I say, if you've got parents or anyone that's working towards that retirement, like I can't wait for that. The alarm bells would be going off in my head now, because from my experience, as someone that does enjoy work, regardless of what it is, I am a worker. That's something I pride myself on. When I think of my dad, and he's nearing the element of like nearly paying his mortgage off maybe, and then being able to retire. This guy works day in, day out, Saturdays where he can. My goodness, I don't know how he would do it. Like, the stark difference from that to then nothing, as it were, you know. And again, you have the novelty of it. Can you afford to do interesting things? If that's the case, then maybe. I think it's important to note that work is needed as the puzzle piece, as the legs under the table, whether you're using the Dan Sloss reference or the Matthew Hussey one. It's a part of you. It's about what you do and what you stand for. And I've missed some of that, I suppose, is what I'm saying there by not having some of that. It's been hard at times. And on reflection, I need to make sure that I keep busy. It was why I always used to struggle with the 6-week holidays. I knew that. I knew that I hated those. They are my least favourite. And the 2-week holidays, quite frankly, they're enough. In the 6 weeks, you kind of fill it a little bit with a holiday. So there's a little bit more where it's like, oh, okay, you can get through 2-3 weeks. But even after that, it's like, I just kind of want to be back now. Probably always knew it. It probably just wasn't brought to my attention so starkly. So I'm now much more thankful that I'm now signed up with all 3 places. They're calling me. It's a bit scary to be like, oh God, saying no and looking at the calls, but it is better for me. I've got to be careful too, because I might keep saying yes too often because I want that structure and the distraction too. But realistically, I want to make sure there's nothing else that's unsettling me. And if there is, then I need to work on that too. But there is a balance to be had of how much purpose I need in my life and intention and meaningful work and connection to others versus how much time I need to myself. I don't mind being on my own, but we do also need a sense of belonging, connection, hence lost connection. So feel free to join us with reading this book. As you can see, there are lots of takeaways from me, and I rave about this one. This comes up probably more often than any other book. It's not specifically for single people, but I think the feelings that we can experience can be overcome with the help of the suggestions in this book and understanding what's really going on, maybe. So highly recommend. Join into the Single Girls Club. I hope you have another wonderful week.